All right, so good afternoon, guys. My name is Tahjyei Thompson. Today I'll be speaking of my entire internship experience here on the Calico Challenge, mentorship that was brought to us by the Palisades Foundation, which is an annual mentorship program. So today I'll be speaking on the project overview, the lessons I've learned, and also suggestions for future development. So for the project overview, I've been assigned to the project Pattoo, right? And Pattoo is really a open source Jamaican project which allows us to capture time series data by setting up what are called agents to various points. And I was assigned to develop a mobile application that allows us to visualize the data Pattoo captures, similar to the Pattoo web application. And this should be built using, well, it was built using Flutter, a Dart framework. And we were given 3 months to produce our MVP for the application. So when I started this project, this was my first experience using Flutter. And the first thing I did was organize a structure for the project architecture. In terms of, we used a model view controller pattern with a lot, and we also added some more features such as the services we use. But this is just to separate the model from the view, and these should never interact. So, but they interact with the controller. I also translated my partner's initial design to code. Well, not all of it, but part of it. And I was responsible for developing the dark mode feature as well. And after I was completed doing those parts, I initialized the API to application interaction for the application. And I can say for that entire month, I accomplished everything I set out to do. And here we have the progress for the month one in terms of the application. We had the initial login screen, the initial agent screen, and the initial display screen, along with the data points listing screen and the settings screen. So month two was a little bit more difficult as I was starting to focus on the main thing, what this project was really about, visualizing the data. So we had to add charting, and that was my responsibility for the month to chart the data from the Pattoo API to a specific data point agent on any agent chart. Once I this had taken me about 2 weeks to accomplish because there had to be various changes made to the database and the API itself in order to incorporate certain changes and to make everything functional, right? So after I'd finished accomplishing this, the next task was to implement a multi-line charting feature, which would allow up to 7 different data points, all can be from the different agent groups, to be charted on one chart. And once this was done, I also added chart grouping, and that was really my second month. And again, I had accomplished everything for that month. And here is the progress with the charts. Here you can see that I'm rendering the chart for a specific data point along with the metadata that Pattoo allows you to customize on the backend side, along with the chart, the various chart group. Well, I only have a single chart group in this instance. And for month three, this was the closing month for the project. So first, we had to go over how the UI looked. It wasn't really pleasing. It wasn't really modern. So me and my partner had to go over some designs and make some updates to make it look more modern. And the code itself now, whenever we render on a different device, we find it that certain widgets or display items were stretching or out of position because it wasn't really responsive. So we had to ensure that the design of the application could adapt to any screen size and also any orientation. And to top it up, add more chart modification features such as panning and zooming, renaming and deletion. And this was our progress after the third month. Here you can see a different design for how the previous agent listing had looked and the display messages, along with the new data point agent listing. But there was also one more modification I'd made, but you'll see later on in the demonstration. As for the lessons I've learned throughout this internship, the first one I had learned was proper communication among my teammates, as this leads to a better workflow and understanding of every member's role. Being a lone wolf isn't good for the team because with this mentality, you can do it all makes your team more dependent on you and will ultimately affect like the team's dynamic in the future. And also understanding the theory instead of copying code. A lot of students I see at university level, whenever they come across a problem that they can solve, they tend to just go online, such as Stack Overflow, and see the solution. Because a lot of the problems we get are very repetitive problems that we are assigned to, and they just copy the code, which is not good. When you learn the theory instead of just copying code, you find that you could write more concise and more readable code, and all the more things become easier. Even debugging and testing made are done easier. So for this internship, I have suggestions for the future development of the mobile application. I would advise a different architectural pattern approach that is easier understood and easier to add changes because initially, me and my teammates were a bit of novices when it comes to app development. So we just used an architecture that we knew, but there are actually many more architectures out there that could be used over this as it allows for more involvement and development and be more organized in terms of the document structure. Another suggestion was allowing us to export the data from the application. Even the web application, it could also be used to export Pattoo data, such as the reports of the charts and also maybe the image of the chart, a statistical report of the charts, along with a UI UX design change, as neither of my teammates were much of user experience designers. So we had to really think out the box, and it could have been better. It could have really been better. So for the future of the Calico, I suggest that you look for students with this kind of background in UI and UX design. Now, during the project, I had a lot of resources that I needed to when I came about certain problems and needed certain implementations to aid me. So the most important one, I needed the Pattoo documents because without those, I wouldn't understand how Pattoo works. Next, whenever my mentors, Philip and Mr. Harrison, weren't able to aid me, I'd go on Stack Overflow for professional advice specific to the Flutter framework, along with reviewing the Flutter documents for the official implementation of certain logic. And lastly, this was very important because this is a community team which provides a lot of Flutter tutorials. They're called Fill Stacks. I've used them for the last 3 months, and their implementations have been very, very good. Now for the demonstration of the application. Start. So I will only be speaking about stuff that I had worked on the application in this demonstration. So initially you had to log in using a specific user that's in the database for future purposes of capturing their name and for favorite charts, but that has nothing to do with me right now. So currently there are no APIs connected to the application, so we have to navigate to the settings screen and enter an active Pattoo server, which is the Calico that Palisades software that's run by the company. And once authentication has been completed, you'll be navigated to the agent screen to see all the available agents on the project. And immediately after that, we go to the data point agent listings to see the various data points specific to an agent. Here you can see the values that are currently active and also a small snippet of the metadata for each data point agent, along with the units used. And this is what happens when we click on one of the tiles. Notice that the chart's being rendered, and you can see the different time frames, a day, a year, and now we go down to the metadata tiling area, see all the data that the person who had set up the Pattoo project has given for this specific data point. And immediately after that, we can go to charting, the multi-charting feature. So I'm going to add one data point from the same agent and watch as it renders. And then we can add a second one immediately after that. And this is from a completely different agent table as well, and it will also be rendered. And apologies. And immediately after that, we could go down to the metadata and remove one of these data points that we added. And also, we can now save this as a chart group. I'm going to give this new and improve chart group. I'm going to save it, and you'll be prompted that it has been saved successfully. And then we'll navigate to the chart group page. And we scroll down to see that chart has been created. And we have the data points that we had saved earlier rendered on this chart. An additional feature of this is that we're able to rename the chart. Then defective chart. And very happy. That was all I was able to work on during my 3-month period. And I thank you for the opportunity once again, the Palisades Foundation. And I'm open to answering questions.